as we do have enough for a quorum, so I will ask that our clerk please call the roll. And remember, obviously, I'm going to do this for a bit, but remember where you're calling in from and virtually.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Present, attending virtually from the city of Lansing.
Councilmember Hussein.
Present, participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Dunbar. I do not see her yet. Councilmember Betts.
Present, participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Spitzley.
I'm present, participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Wood.
I am present and participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Garza.
I am present and I am participating remotely from Lansing, Michigan.
Councilmember Jackson. I do not see them in attendees yet, so at this point you have 6 members present, and I will watch for Councilmember Dunbar and Jackson.
Very good, thank you. And I will just say too, since we don't have a lot on the agenda, I'll ask folks now, I'll give them the warning. Go ahead and if you want to make public comment, raise your hand. We'll get to it after the presentation. I know a lot of you are here for comment on the Morse Park pool, which we got a lot of feedback on that. So that'll, I'm sure Mr. Kaczynski will address that in his comments. You're welcome to make comments, obviously, but go ahead and raise your hand now so we can get the list started, and then that will close after the first person concludes his or her comments. Carol, do you wish to make public comment?
I have a question for you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you. I understand the parks plan and all the community input. I think one of the things that's extremely important is the capital improvement portion, which is what we're able to borrow money or apply for grants. So if we could ask Brett, when he's going through his presentation, if he could make sure that he highlights that portion of the plan, I would appreciate it.
Certainly, Mr. Kaczynski, I assume you heard that request. If not, we will make sure to follow up when you're presenting. But we do have one piece of business that I, thank you, Councilmember Wood. Just a minutes from January 11th, if we could dispense with those, Mr. Vice President.
Sure, I would move the meeting minutes from January 11th, 2021 as presented.
Very good, there's proper motion. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Spatafor.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Betts.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Dunbar. Councilmember Jackson. I do not see them present yet, so motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Brett Kaczynski, now I know you're here, I see you. So we will go ahead and start with the presentation. Again, the point of this meeting is one last round of an opportunity for the public to provide input on the Parks Master Plan, which is a 5-year plan from 2020 to 2025. The council will look for a final action on this on Monday evening, as it is due to the powers that be on February 1st, and we don't have a meeting after Monday before the 1st. So Mr. Kaczynski, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. We could cut out. Councilmember Wood asked me to address what?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Wood specifically wanted to make sure that during your commentary, you highlighted the capital improvement portions, as that was the spending issues, the things that we're looking to spend some money on. So if you could make sure that that is specifically mentioned in your comments or after your slideshow, that would be ideal.
Okay. As you said, this is our 5-year plan, and it will run from
Brett, I don't know, is anyone else having troubles, or is it just me? You may want to try connecting with your phone rather than the internet, if that's a possibility. Looks like you're trying to do that right now. Oh, no, you dropped out. We're still having a hard time hearing you, buddy.
Okay.
me see if I can get you the, I'm gonna text you the call-in number here. Council, we're gonna go at ease for just a minute. So feel free to turn your video off if you want.
I think this might be him on the phone, Peter. Ending in 721.
Let's risk it.
I could just check his phone number real quick.
Yep, I think that's right.
Okay, I guess all I can do is allow it to talk. I can't make him a panelist.
Yeah, let's go and do that, and then if it's not him, we know what to do.
Yep.
Brett, is that you?
That is.
All right, that's going to work much better. And Sherry has the PowerPoint ready to go. So if you want to just follow along at home and let her know when you're ready to move from slide to slide, we'll go ahead and go this route. Let me get the council back to order here. Council members, Betts, Spitzley, looks like y'all are ready. Okay, we are all here, Brett, and we are on the opening slide that that discusses the 5-year plan. So.
Okay. So it is the 5-year plan from 2020 through 2025. This plan not only acts as our guide for the next 5 years, but also is submitted to the Department of Natural Resources for grants that we can apply for with them, and it is also on file with the state. We also send it to Tri-County Regional Planning and obviously we put it on our website for all of our neighboring communities and our residents and everyone to see. So this started back a year ago in 2020, where the park board sat down to formulate the plan for the next 5 years. Obviously, that was interrupted by COVID as far as our public input went with regards to in-person sessions that we were going to have. We did get, and you'll see here later, we did get a very good response rate from residents in the city. But our feedback that we wanted was really around 4 goals, and that was being connected, being accessible, being diversified, and placemaking. And then we did add an additional goal in regards to COVID-19 and climate change further into the planning process. So if you go ahead to the next slide there, we We did send out those responses, or excuse me, the survey for feedback. And you see there, we had over 600 collected, which was a 450% increase over our previous master plan. We include those results in the master plan here. So you will see all of the questions and the responses to those. What we do not include but what we have is the comments that people gave. So we read through all of the comments as well, but you will see those survey results in this plan. As far as participation, you can see from this slide that it was very well represented from each of the 4 wards. All of those in the near a perfect divide really across the city in terms of participation. So I wanted to make sure and add that information in for folks to see, for council to see that this was very well represented as far as our feedback goes through all 4 wards. One of the big objectives of the plan is to establish goals and objectives. And this year we have 4 of those, which I mentioned already. You see the objectives there listed below the goal. I just want to talk about a little bit of the rationale for each one of those goals. For being connected, the Lansing Park should be part of the fabric of the city. All residents should easily be able to travel to a nearby park, as spending time outdoors can have positive effects on one's health and provide opportunities to connect with one's neighbors. This goal is about making improvements to make it easier to get to parks via walking, biking, or transit, riding, and reduce the reliance, on private automobile transportation. So our second goal is accessible, that all programming, events, and amenities within the Lansing Park system should be known to every citizen. This goal is about making it easier to know what is happening within the park system, making it easier to register for events and classes, and making sure the programming reflects the needs of the community. And then we added in goal number 3. This would be being resilient to COVID-19 and climate change. So the Lansing Park system needs to ensure that the effects of our changing world are planned for to ensure the park can continue to serve the needs of the city. As the COVID-19 pandemic forces more people into parks, but with physical separation, programming should adjust to maintain the health and safety of the participants and staff. And as the effects of climate change continue to worsen, improvements to the parks should be made with an eye for the future. And you see the objectives listed there for goal number 3. Goal number 4 is diversified. And the rationale behind that is that the Lansing Park system needs to understand how it can better serve communities within the city impacted by systemic racism. And equity assessment would allow the city to understand where programming and improvements could be made to better serve the surrounding communities. There are many organizations within the city that can help provide needed programming as the recreation needs change over time. And you see the objectives there, which include a lot of our partnerships that we have already established there. And then goal number 5 would be placemaking. And this is the rationale behind this is as more residents spend time in parks, it has become clear more can be done to allow residents to feel comfortable and enjoy their time in the Lansing parks. More and more residents are treating outdoor green space, plenty of which is found in Lansing parks, as we have over 2,000 acres, as their outdoor living room. But some are missing some key amenities, places to sit and eat, restrooms, trash cans. This goal is about identifying areas where small investments can be made to improve the health, happiness, and well-being of Lansing residents. And so those are our goals and objectives that you see in the plan that kind of gives a guide for what we saw on the surveys and where the park board wanted to go as far as direction in the future there. So this plan includes a item recognizing where we're at with COVID. It talks about our accomplishments over the last 5 years. It talks about the action plan for the future. And that comes from many different ways. That could come from residents asking for certain improvements. It comes from our park board and input that they have. It comes from as far as feedback that we received in the plan or in the survey that we put out there. So you will see an action plan there. And again, this is a guide that we see. This does not mean that we have to go down that road, or it does not mean that something that is not in the plan cannot be done in the future, but it is the guide for that. So then it also, we talk about our administrative structure, the friends groups that we have, our organizational chart. Then we also have an inventory of our current and an evaluation of our current facilities that we have. We talk about our grant history with the DNR, and then really a survey or a listing of recreation that is not city owned, and talking about the facilities in the private sector and other areas. We talk about the planning process, and again, I just want to thank the park board for all of their process that they put through on that. I know we had a lot of ideas that we just were not able to put to fruition because of the COVID this year. I also want to make sure to thank Kelly Brown and Greg Satterfield from our staff. This is something that we did not hire a consultant to put together this plan. And quite frankly, especially with the way we were not able to meet in public and have those public input meetings, this probably saves somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 by being able to put together this plan in-house. And that couldn't have been done without the help of those staff members and then also the park board. So it also includes the survey results in there, and that pretty much sums up the 5-year master plan. And again, as you mentioned, this is due to the Department of Natural Resources April 1st. I know you had asked about an update on Morris Park Pool, and we are currently in the process. We have hired a architect engineering firm to do an analysis. They will come up with all of the issues that we have at the pool, construction-wise, structure-wise as well, to be able to give us a number that we can then figure out, okay, what are the next steps from here? What are the improvements that need to be made? What is eligible for grants? And how do we maintain that pool into the future? So that is due here soon. We are meeting again with them on February 1st, and we expect them to wrap up their plan here probably in the springtime as far as their report on the pool. That will also include the number for the improvements and where they think that would fall in terms of what type of capital we would need to raise to get the pool back in shape and have swimming in there again, and also to maintain the architectural structure and the historical structure of the pool, and also to address any ADA issues that we have at the pool. In terms of CIP projects, those are listed in there. As you know, we go through those each year with regards to what we are able to fund with the Lansing Parks Millage. The Parks Millage did pass this year by the highest amount ever, 75%. So I think we have very good support for the Lansing Parks Millage, and that will be a discussion, obviously, that we have each year as far as how to spend the dollars from our Lansing Parks Millage. And then also Ingham County residents pass the Ingham County Parks and Trails Millage, and we use that for many of the projects, bridges, extensions, pavement repairs, and bank stabilization along the 16 miles of trail that we have currently on the Lansing River Trail. So with that, that is the presentation on the Parks Master Plan.
Okay, thank you, Brett. I've got a couple council member questions. First, we'll start with, I think, looks like Councilmember Spitzley beat you to the punch this time, Councilmember Wood.
For once, yay! No, thank you, Brett, for that presentation. I have a couple questions. You know, when I was on the Parks Board, we were wrestling with the Morris Park pool even back then. And as a sidebar, just acknowledging, we've gotten a number of emails and comments from residents who are asking us to take a more thoughtful look and to try and to preserve the Morris Park pool. And I understand that, but I do recall when I was on Parks Board that even then it was $1 million plus that we were looking at. And that was just to repair one thing. I don't even think that was to make it ADA compliant and some other issues that are wrong with the pool. And we expressed, and even on council, we're expressing some concern that, you know, all of our parks dollars or our capital fund, you know, would go to repairing of the Morris Park pool. So one of the questions I have two questions. The first question is, has the philosophy, I guess, changed from a few years ago for preserving the pool? And two, you know, are we looking to put it in kind of like a foundation, like the Finner, Friends of Finner, or how are we, you know, this study that's coming up, you know, that's going to tell us something new that we already know, which is that it's going to cost $1 million plus to repair the pool. So I want you to address what exactly you think this study is going to tell us that we don't already know. Thank you.
Well, the study is going to tell us exactly that, what we know, which is that the pool is in need of many upgrades and repairs because it was originally established in 1922 and it was still running as of a few years ago. So the reason why we put the money into this is to find out exactly what that number is and exactly the details of what improvements need to be made there and how much those are going to cost. In other words, for us to get a little bit better idea of what that bullseye is that we're going to need to hit financially. So that is really where this is. You mentioned the foundation. Anything is possible. And we saw results of a public-private partnership with Fenner that you mentioned. I'm sure we can all look at Rotary Park, for instance, and the relationship that we have with the Community Foundation to see where those public-private partnerships can go. Beacon Field is another example. So, yeah, I am definitely not close to the fact that we can color it differently. We do not need to operate things in the same way that we have always done so. And if that opportunity comes up where a group wants to take and adopt the pool and run with it, yes, absolutely. We have seen success with that, and we should entertain all of those ideas that come up. So we are open to all of that. And I think everyone should be, because we have seen that not only here in Lansing, but also across the state and nation.
Carol, I'm gonna interject because it's about this. Is that all right? Okay. Brett, I think that's great. And I've got a lot of emails about the pool, and I don't want to make this whole meeting about the pool, but I do know there's a lot of good things in here, and I'm excited to hear the openness from you as a director, but also administration on looking at creative ways to try and do something over there. Because I know we can't spend our entire Parks Millage on one project. I don't think that anyone, in the city is advocating for that at all. Including the most fervent supporters of the pool rehabilitation. So I'm really pleased to hear that there's a lot of options on the table. And with that, I will flip it over to Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. I do want to get back to the pool, but I do want to first talk about a couple of things in the action plan. And the action plan is put together so that in applying for state dollars and the trust fund, that they're listed in here. It doesn't mean that Parks Millage money might not be used for them as well, but I wanted to talk about the rationale of a couple of them. First was the dog park, establishing an off-leash park in downtown Lansing and at Atwood Park, providing additional areas for pet owners. I know that when we had the dog park in Scott's Woods, before we turned it over to the county, there were concerns about how we were maintaining it and how we were, some of the issues with that. So what is the thought process with establishing more dog parks when we turned over a dog park to the county?
And I'm going to let Brett answer that question about the dog parks, but first I need Councilmember Dunbar to please let us know from where she is joining us virtually.
Thank you for allowing me in here. I had another Zoom that did not get off until just now. So I am joining you remotely from South Lansing.
Thank you very much. Brett, if you could please, if you have an answer for Councilmember Wood regarding the dog parks. Thank you.
Both of these were requests from residents in those areas. I believe one was with the Friends of Durant Park directly, and the other was a resident in the area right next to Atwood. Both are willing to seek support within their neighborhood for these smaller dog parks. This is something, again, that we saw as far as some requests that are being made because individuals are seeking place to have their dogs off leash. As you mentioned, we do have the partnership with the county that is adjacent to Hawk Island, where individuals are able to come in through the county park, or they can use our river trail and access the park there through Scott Woods. So this is something that, again, we are seeing as far as a request from residents for additional places for off-leash. These would be much different than the Scott Woods Park that has the large pond in it and is more of a natural area. If we do a smaller dog park, again, we would look to separate large animals from small animals. This would also, in a smaller area, you need to look at artificial turf or artificial grass. This is something that we have seen in other dog parks throughout the state of Michigan, where you apply a chemical cleaning agent to the artificial turf once a month, for instance, that would be your maintenance of that turf area. Because even at Scott Woods with the Solden Dog Park, you see a lot of wear and tear. In fact, on the grass, there is no grass. And that's a very large area because it turns muddy real quick. So yes, as with any project that we do, we need to take a look at the maintenance needs and what we would need to do to maintain that. And again, we talked about friends groups. Is there an interest from that, or is that something that the city Parks and Recreation staff would add to the list of maintaining within the infrastructure that we currently have?
Okay. And I would caution, and I realize we are not having this up for this particular item, the dog park, up for a vote at this point, but it is part of the plan that as moving forward, we've watched some of the gardens and things that are in neighborhoods that haven't been maintained and some of those things. So I think we just have to be careful with that one to make sure that we are going to have the maintenance of that, because these parks are also used by children and families, and we want to make sure that they can use those in a manner where it's not just a problem with feces from animals that they have to deal with. My next one is the community centers and the upgrade in the flooring. My question is that, in this particular one, was that the Alfreda Smith Center? Is that being considered for an upgrade in the flooring?
No, we just upgraded the flooring in the Sandy Allen room. I believe the next we would take a look at the game room there, but particularly we're looking at Geyer Community Center within the balcony area as far as the old tile there. And just, for instance, Foster Center, many of the rooms, the last carpet was in 1997. So when you're looking at almost a quarter century between your carpet replacements in a public building, that's the need for flooring upgrades.
I would just, again, caution with the Alfreda Smith Center, since we don't own the building, to see if we can't work with the school district on any money that we put in from our park millage or anything else into that building, that we receive some credit for that as part of it. My next one is the Red Cedar Development. This has to do with connecting the river trail to the park and the new development. I was under the impression that that was part of what the developer was going to do as part of that development. So why are we looking at putting additional dollars into that?
Well, putting this in the plan doesn't mean that we're putting the dollars into it. So yes, this is a cooperative plan with the drain commissioner and the developer over there. So this is extending the river trail from where it ends at Kircher Park and extending it into the Red Cedar project. And then this could also extend across the traffic light that is coming in near Morgan Lane in Michigan to be able to connect to the Rainey Park project. So again, because things are listed in here does not necessarily mean that City of Lansing capital improvement dollars from the millage would be going into the certain project.
I get that. Brett, been here long enough to know that once there's print to ink to paper, that some of these things move forward because it's pointed out it was in the plan. So I am just trying to get some clarification. Just two other things. One, I know that in talking to the disability community, there was a lot of concern about access, whether it was to having some paved area for wheelchairs and walkers to be able to get to pavilions, whether it was additional tables and things for accessibility. I don't see that in part of the action plan. I know that it is talked about in the plan, Can you address that at all?
So being accessible was a goal. So it is a very large part of the plan. When we talk about the accessibility evaluation, that is part of the plan as well. I think you will also see some of those access areas that we talked about at Washington Park, where you mentioned paved area or sidewalk area to the pavilion. I believe that that is in there as well. And I would need to double check on that. But the other thing would be our river trail and the extensions that we are making there, especially on the east side. All of those issues that you see have accessibility in mind when we go for them. And again, any capital improvements that are made must be made to current ADA standards.
Okay, thank you. My last does have to do with Morse Park. I understand the enormous cost that there is out there, but I will tell you, in listening to the community, there is a great desire to save that pool and to do the renovations that need to be done to that. I don't think anybody, as was stated earlier, expects that the entire millage go for that. I think that there are opportunities to look at between fundraising, millage dollars, and looking at historic credits, a number of those things to see if we can't do something with that. I know that I believe it was last year with the budget, it could have been the year before, there was talk about decommissioning that pool and putting in a splash pad and some other things there. What I'm gathering from what has been said so far, that there is nothing in the plan that talks about decommissioning that pool at this time. Am I correct?
In terms of, I'll start with the splash pad comment. When we met with Morse Park Pool on that, in previous years, there was no desire for any sort of splash pad there because it did not fit with a lot of the stone structure that we have in that park. So that there was no interest from the neighbors in. As far as a decommissioning of the pool, again, we put money into the analysis of that. We are waiting for that report back to have that number. And there is no talk of money for improvements. There is no talk of decommissioning. There is no talk of any of that until we get a report to see where we are going to have decision-making points in the future.
As far as splash pad, I know that the neighborhood didn't want it. I know that part of the discussion, though, came from the administration that that was an alternative that they would give to the neighbors. So I just want to clarify that. It was not something that the neighbors were looking for or the people interested in the pool. So that's, thank you, President Spatafor. That's the end of my comments at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Betts.
Thank you, President Spatafor, and thank you, Brett, for being here and giving us this presentation today. I really appreciate it. I've got a couple questions about some of the details of the plan and the goals and the objectives and things like that. The first, in talking about climate change and sustainability, have you reached out to the sustainability manager to talk about the best ways to improve parks for climate change in the future?
No.
Okay, so I guess that's something that we need to be doing, especially moving forward, if we've entrusted this person as an employee to extreme heat, flooding on the east side is going to be more, and then we're going to have a huge refugee population moving to Michigan in the next 20 or 30 years, and that's something that we definitely need to be prepared for. I guess my next question, detailed in the plan, was a little bit about refugee outreach and to refugee populations to see what kind of programs and services they would like from the Parks Department. I guess my question is, what does outreach look like over the next year as we're dealing with COVID? And also, what are you doing to overcome some of the language barriers and other cultural barriers that there are? And then I guess my third question there, how are you reaching out to refugees who are perhaps not receiving traditional services that they can receive at the city?
So some of the things that we have begun is, for instance, different recreational opportunities. We currently do not have a cricket pitch in Lansing, in the city of Lansing. That is something that we are looking to place in and working with the community there in regards to cricket. We just installed some Toulouse courts over at Francis Park. This is a top spin game that is especially popular within the Hmong population. And so this is another, again, as you see the diversity of recreational opportunities, we are looking for that within those communities. Traditional baseball or tennis or basketball, all of those, we are constantly looking to expand the recreational opportunities to meet the needs of those communities, and to also introduce those sports to others that have never seen them. So those are some of the goals, I think, some that we have done, some that we are looking to do in the future in regards to expanding those recreational opportunities. We have seen with the Beacon Fields and the work with the Refugee Center there, a large increase in participation from those communities at the Beacon Fields. This has also led to an increase in the soccer at Risdale Park, Willard Walker Stadium. So you will see a lot of activity there. And I think these are examples of ways that we can reach out within those communities, some of which is right now a sport or an activity that is exclusive to that community. But also when you look at soccer, you see, especially at the Beacon Fields, how you have a mix of various groups all together under that same recreational opportunity or universal sport, for instance, which is soccer. I believe that is, kind of highlights the opportunities that we have coming up and the challenges that we have. You mentioned COVID. Unfortunately, we have had to remove some of those recreational opportunities during that shutdown time, just based on what we can do as far as social distancing, as far as keeping people safe within various sports and recreational opportunities. So there's so much you can do with shutting down parks and recreational opportunities. Some is easier than others, but we will continue to keep people safe within the means that we have available.
Great, thank you, Brett. Sorry for interrupting you there. I must have paused for a second. That is my fault, and my internet's fault. I guess my last question is related to COVID. I realize in the plan that there's a lot of planning that's going to be taking place in terms of making sure that everything is COVID friendly and that we can do some more of these activities and things like that. I guess my question is, a couple questions. First, are these changes going to be temporary or permanent changes? It sounds like, to me that we're going to be moving some things around and doing different programs. Oh, sorry, did I break up there for a second?
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay, so first question, temporary or permanent? Are the changes going to be temporary or permanent? What do those look like? And then are we accounting for the cost of reverting back post-pandemic? I'm kind of wondering what that's going to look like as we change programming and then change it back.
So I think some of the things will be permanent. I think you are going to see more of a move to outdoor classrooms and outdoor, for instance, fitness programs and yoga classes that during the middle of summer were held indoors in air conditioning. I see a lot more of those coming outside. Do we install another drinking fountain ever? I don't know the answer to that question. Will they only be bottle filling stations? You know, those are things that we're looking at as an industry that that very well could be permanent, that there are no more outdoor drinking fountains, that there are only bottle filling stations. So I think it depends a lot on what the amenity is. Obviously, we had a lot of areas that we used to be able to have people within 18 inches of each other at festivals, etc. Do we see that being temporary, or do we see that being permanent? You know, those are things that we're going to have to evaluate. I can tell you this, we see the learning labs as temporary. We do not want to have a learning lab every year. That is not our forte. And we want the schools to be open and the kids in the schools. So that, I think, is an example of things that we see that are temporary. That being said, I think we are going to have a more labor-intensive summer camp because of additional cleaning protocols, et cetera, that will take place. We certainly saw that this year, where we used to be able to serve 10 or more kids per staff person. We're down to under a 1-to-10 ratio for a lot of those programs. So staffing wise, I think we're going to see more staff people for the numbers that we had previously before COVID. And that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of, and obviously any capital improvement projects going forward, we have to take that COVID eye and look at the design of whatever we're doing to make sure that we are where we need to be with design in terms of for pandemic type situations, or to be able to spread people out as much as we possibly can with the project.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brett. Very interesting. I love to hear these things. And thank you, President Spatafor, for giving me the time to ask those questions.
No problem. Thank you for asking them and participating. Looks like that's it. Any last comments from council members before I turn it over to the public? All right. It feels like an episode of Parks and Rec. Truly, we're doing a public forum on the parks plan. So I am channeling my inner Leslie Knope here. We've got 3 folks have raised their hands so far, but if you are looking to make public comment, I think a lot of you know the drill, but is on a computer, a PC, it's Alt-Y. On a Macintosh, it is Option Y. On the phone, it is *9. Yeah, *9. And then if you're using a touchscreen device, go ahead and there's a participant button and a raise hand thing. Zoom just upgraded again, so that may have changed, but there you go. And again, each person will get 3 minutes, and then we will close the list after the first person speaks. And our first person is Veronica Gracia Wing, followed by Dale Schroeder.
Good evening. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson Spatafor. I am Veronica Gracia Wing, attending virtually from Lansing. Thank you, council members, for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you to Brett Kaczynski, the Parks and Recreation Department, and the Park Board for their hard work on this master plan in a very funky year. Tonight, I'm speaking in 2 capacities. The first is that I would like to come to you in my capacity as chair of the Friends of Morris Park Pool, which is the citizens group partnering with the city on the next chapter of our pool. And our effort is specifically advocating, as you're aware, for the preservation of the pool as an invaluable historical asset to our city, region, and I'm going to say the state, and let's get real ambitious, the nation. I'm commenting particularly in support of the draft goal item for the phase work on the Bintz pool, which is on page 16 of the draft plan. I'd also really like to express and encourage that this pool remain a priority for the Parks Department and the city as a whole beyond this master plan, of course. Just as a quick update, the Citizens Committee has raised nearly $9,000 towards a $15,000 public fundraising goal that will then be matched by another $15,000 from a private donor and Preservation Lansing. And once we meet those goals, which we fully intend to do, we plan to donate that $30,000 to the city in support of the architectural assessment. We're really looking forward to using this assessment as that grounded starting point to determine the best public-private strategy forward to ensure this pool is around for generations to come. Next, I'd like to speak in my capacity as chair of the newly formed Lansing Parks Foundation. Yes, I have a couple of too many hats. And that foundation formation is truly the direct result of your belief in a foundation being critical to diversifying the sustainability of our park system. So officially, thank you for the passing of that resolution back in March of 2019. Tonight, I'm commenting in support of Goal 4, that our parks and recreation system should be diversified, specifically Objective E, and that the department partner with the newly developed Parks Foundation to assist with capital improvement projects. The Lansing Parks Foundation Board looks forward to the continued relationship with the department, administration, and council, working together to create smart and sustainable solutions, meeting the needs and values of the community and reflecting those needs and values in our park system. Please expect updates from me and this group as we build our board and work publicly to launch the foundation later this year. Thank you for my time.
Thank you very much, Veronica, and for being here. And our next speaker, and that closes our list, by the way, is Dale Schroeder, followed by Loretta Stanaway. Mr. Schroeder.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great, great. Well, hello, City Council members, and thank you for hearing me. My name's Dale Schroeder. I'm virtually from North Lansing speaking. First, I want to compliment the Parks Department and the city for holding that pool. I'm going to speak really on behalf of Morse Park Pool, but for holding that pool together as long as they did. It's the oldest of 130 Wesley Benz pools in the country that's still standing. And they've held it together all this time up until last year with duct tape and bubble gum. And I want to compliment them on that. But the time has come, it needs major work. And any pool, outdoor pool needs major work every 30 or 40 years. It just is, and this one is no exception. But I did want to say that, and the historic aspects of that pool is Wesley Benz, who built the pool, went on to build 130 pools, and he's from Lansing. He lived on the west side and his whole life. So there are many, many ties to our area. Brett mentioned the assessment. I also wanted to thank him on the selection of the architect that's doing the assessment. It's WTI. This was the historical expert. They had 3 or 4 bids, I think maybe 6. And this was a good one for preservation, I thought. And they know how to if we're going for historic grants, we're going to have it assessed according to historic standards. And they call it Secretary of Interior standards. And this particular architect knows how to do that. And then, as Veronica mentioned, we've raised almost $25,000 so far between an anonymous grant and Preservation Lansing and Citizens, and we intend to get 30,000, and the assessment costs 60,000. So we want to pledge half of that, and then when we get to the assessment back, we're going to have the big number, and we're going to need to put our hats on and try to figure that out. Because, but I just wanted to say, if we want a pool for recreation, then why not this historic one, which means so much to Lansing? And that's all. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schroeder. Next up is Loretta Stanaway, followed by Jeffrey Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening,
And
Loretta.
I do want to lend my support in the strongest possible way to the continuation of the functioning of that pool. I think that there are so many positives that can be gained from that neighborhood and the city as a whole by maintaining that historical and valuable resource. Also, I want to speak on the park board or to the Parks Department's plans for the cemeteries. They were very short mentioned in the draft plan, but I think that they are finally in a good place between the increased revenues from Section G and Evergreen and from the Fratcher Memorial Garden. I would like to suggest that one of the things that the park board and the department may want to consider in the next few years is going a little further with those improvements and options by adding the ability in Evergreen Cemetery to have a green burial space and to have a scattering garden, and also to further develop the columbarium area where the one existing columbarium sits alone on an island of space by itself, and we could turn that into a tower garden area that would enable the city to sell more columbarium sites in that cemetery. So just some potential ideas that could be revenue enhancers coming down the pike. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Ms. Stanley. Then our next speaker is Jeffrey Brown, followed by someone on the phone, and your phone number ends in 967. So first up is Jeffrey Brown, followed by our last speaker ending in 967.
Thank you, President Spataford. My name is Jeffrey Brown, a native of Lansing. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm so glad to hear that we are talking about accessibility for our parks and recreations. I just wanted to encourage that we continue to visit that and look at it in new ways. So many times, me being an advocate for people with disabilities and senior citizens, we look at the ADA compliance where we're doing rebuild to bring things up to code. But when we're not rebuilding, are we looking at what's currently in place and how are we making sure that people truly have safe access? Especially during this pandemic time, throughout our summer this year, I saw so many people with disabilities having to get assistance and be dependent on someone else to make sure that they were able to participate and have that recreation, which is so needed for mental health and self-care as well. So I thank you for that. I wanted to make that comment. Regarding the Moores River Park pool, those are some of my fondest memories as a child. We had, we were taken there with our school, with our classmates. And then of course, in the summertime, that is the place that most of us, one of the only places we had to go. And so I think not only from the historical value, but just as a person and a resident, it's important that we continue to reinvest in things that make Lansing Lansing and bring people together. So I thank you so much for that. But, our heritage definitely needs to be honored. And, I really am encouraging everyone in those collaborations to make sure that we fix the pool. So thank you so much for my time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker and final speaker is on the telephone, ending in 967. Our caller there we are.
Hello.
Hello, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you for calling this evening.
Thank you. This is my first city council meeting, so I'm a little naive on how to present this, but my name is Patty Lyons, and I'm with the president of the Scott Woods Association, Neighborhood Association. And my request was going to start out to be real simple. I was just going to request some playground equipment because we're a neighborhood of 500 homes, and we only have one baby swing and one adult swing in the whole park. But after talking to one of our other members and listening to you guys talk about the Scott Woods entrance into the dog park, I think what we would like to see happen is maybe more parking spots for those cars, or to expand the park so that maybe it comes in through the old McLaren Hospital, maybe taking some of that area or extending the woods into the park, because really our park is probably the smallest park in the whole city, and we get the most, I want to say, activity through the trails. So there's really no area for the children to play. We don't have like, I have two daughters and they're in their 30s and they both have joined like kickball leagues, and it's become a really big success for them because they meet people in the neighborhood and stuff. And we have no activities we could actually really do in the park. There is a basketball hoop there that is for some of the younger people to play, but the area is not big enough to support our neighborhood. So an expansion of the park and some possible playground equipment. I mean, the park gets a lot of use. It's probably one of the prettiest parts of the river trail, and that's where they all have to enter through. And I'm sure a lot of people are now using that dog park through Scott Woods Park. So anything you can do to support me or tell me how we could request such a, make such a request would be really, really helpful. And I do support the Morris Park pool too. I mean, I have tried to go there 3 times to swim, and it seems like you never can get in. I don't know if it's closed at certain times or whatever, but it would be well used in this community, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a general rule, we don't respond to public comment. So I'm just going to generally state that if anyone has anything else to add to City Council, city.council@lansingmi.gov is a good way to send that information to us, and we can pass it along and make sure that folks in the administration see it and that it's seen by all council. That goes to all council members. That is city.council@lansingmi.gov. And with that, that was our final speaker. So we will not seeing any further business. This will be on Cal Monday night, so we're not going to vote tonight. But with no more business before the council, double check. This committee is adjourned at 7:03. Thank you all.